Buenos Aires, Argentina. Living here on and off these last couple years, now with our foreseeable future here, to be honest, sometimes can be a little bit daunting. I've joked with my wife before that there are almost as many people living just in our building alone as there are in my hometown. The city filled with life, flavors, sights, sounds, and sometimes madness. Chaos so many thrive from and feel like oppressing confusion that requires an escape just every once in a while. But what is likely the most beautiful thing to me about Argentina is something else my wife reminds me of often. We're still in South America. Living in Argentina, sometimes I can be fooled into thinking this place is tamed. This modernized city, this ornate European architecture, skyscrapers, rooftop bars, traffic, energetic spirit and passionate people, earning its nickname, La Ciudad de la Furia, the City of Fury, for a reason. But what I've learned most about this place, beyond sometimes that Buenos Aires really stands alone, even among the rest of Argentina, is that there is another side to this incredible country. A wild side. A very untamed side. The same energy and intense collection of characters, features, sights, sounds, and views. It's become for us a seemingly endless endeavor, simply to try and explore all of it. After all, we are still in South America. You may think of many places when you imagine Argentina, or maybe you don't think of very many at all. Of course, there are lightning rods with Torre del Paine, Patagonia, and Tierra del Fuego. But we've been on this sort of personal mission, one that my wife can compare even to some of her own childhood memories growing up here. And for me, experiencing a much more authentic and local side where Argentinians like to visit within their own homelands. Despite sometimes even just being 4 or 5 days at a time, I've really come to believe and appreciate places and experiences merely hours away as we carefully select our moments to escape the city, avoiding high seasons of tourism, getting off the beaten path, and almost always discovering more than we anticipated at every corner of this incredible country. Argentina is filled with wild spaces, wild times, and truly wild life. All of that to say, this particular escape brought us to the coastal desert, a place that can trick you into believing its seemingly endless desolate roads lead to nowhere, but is actually teeming with life at every corner. Puerto Madryn y la Península de Valdés. Especially known for its massive peninsula, El Golfo San Jose to its northwest and Golfo Nuevo to its southwest. Along with its many protected areas, La Península de Valdés may be one of the most unique ecosystems we've ever explored, and this trip turned into one of the most interesting road trips we've tried for here in Argentina, with opportunities for some of the rarest wildlife encounters in all of South America, I believe. Magellanic penguins surfing waves searching for fish. Orcas stalking sea lions. Hairy pygmy armadillos inspecting their neighborhoods. Elephant seals vying for territory. Hundreds of southern right whales reaching their resting and birthing home waters after months-long journeys. Flamingos feeding at sunrise right in the city. This place really feels like a non-stop wild exhibit of some of South America's most curious ecosystems, and one that truly reminds me all over again, really just how unique Argentina is. Leaving in the middle of the night is never really my first choice. And I'd be lying if I said our 3 a.m. alarm didn't take a bit of extra effort to really make sure we'd have everything we'd need and be prepared for what could be, in the very first hints of winter, a very cold week near the end of May in the southern hemisphere. Who needs sleep? We're Argentinian now. Known for its biting cold winds and bitter seas, the off-season of Puerto Madryn is pretty clear for a reason. And growing up in the inland northwest of central Washington, I felt pretty prepared for some brisk, blustery weather. We tried to take advantage of our 6 a.m. flight and 8 a.m. arrival, and touching down at sunrise gave us enough excitement to push through a late night. We headed to the beachside cafe Coral for some classic medialunas de jamón y queso and some much-needed coffee before my jaw dropped and we laughed as an entire flock of around 100 Chilean flamingos gracefully glided by right in front of us and landed a bit further down the beach. With the sun rising and the light getting just right, I don't think it was even 9 a.m. before I felt like I'd already scratched a bucket list bird from the list for myself. Wild flamingos on the beach at sunrise. could have stayed for hours watching them as they busily filtered the shallow tidal waters and bickered between each other. Their intense colors and oddly shaped forms mesmerizing to watch as they remain busy and really undisturbed. Birds that are feeding really provides a magnificent distraction, and once you can settle in, it's nice to know you aren't bothering them. With Punta Cuevas just a short walk further down the beach, we decided to explore what is a very easy walk to see some of the sea caves at low tide. We still had practically the whole day ahead of us, and we decided to aim for what is sort of the staple of Puerto Madre, Franco Australes, the southern right whales that journey there for months before giving birth, taking their much-needed siesta, raising their young, and quite literally kicking back and relaxing in the sun. I'm not exaggerating when I say the first sight of this whale, I was actually alarmed for a few minutes before really making sure he or she was just dozing in the sun. Seeing something like a 15-ton whale bobbing belly up wasn't the first sighting I thought we'd have, but it turned out to be pretty comical and very atmospheric as we realized that was likely what they wanted to do most after swimming literally across the whole ocean. The next morning was really our first venture for what we considered our sort of biggest gamble, the orcas of Punta Norte, and our first foray into the peninsula de Valdez. The distances here are only a bit tricky, and many places are quite spread out and really aren't that far, but broken gravel roads, lots of wildlife, and very little signage stretched our drives into 2 to 3 hours sometimes. So wanting to give ourselves ample time, we made sure and set out about 2 hours before sunrise to really get the most out of our light. Being in the southern hemisphere and approaching winter, the sun didn't come up until about 8 a.m., so we had plenty of time. Our research had given us some insights into gaining our best chances at some sightings. As with anything in the wild, everything is a gift, and you really can only enjoy the ride and whatever comes. In this case, 2 to 3 hours before and after the high tide are widely reported as the best time for your chance at a drive-by sighting with the whales. And despite the rare and incredible beaching attacks being possible, it really wasn't likely as the sea lion pups were out of season and most of the juveniles had moved on. Peak season for the beaching attacks is usually March and April, and sometimes terrible crowds can gather, but we had the entire Estancia Punta Norte to ourselves, giving us plenty of time to really admire and take in this incredible clash of what truly looks like the edge of the world. As waves rolled in on a stormy day, sea lions kept watchful eyes on the water for very good reason. We saw southern giant petrels, imperial cormorants, and then out of nowhere, after just minutes of getting our bearings, one of the research observers very kindly was waving and exclaiming from up the beach that they were coming. An orca family of 5 with a very special treat, their newest member, not even named yet, at only 4 months old. Couldn't help but feel in awe as this family casually inspected what to them must be as familiar as our own living rooms, or in this case, kitchen. These orcas, part of a group of around 25 to 30, use this area very specifically to track down and feed on the numerous sea lions. And seeing each species in their element really created an energy that was hard to explain, as these majestic and powerful predators methodically and very purposefully patrolled up and down the water for hours, while their prey, these sea lions, kept watchful eyes, and remained in the shallows. With so many moments of those intimidating black dorsal fins rising from the depths, it really was a spectacular show and hard to tear ourselves away once they had moved further down. By about 1 p.m., we had really stayed as long as we thought we could. We still had about 3 or 4 hours left of driving to make our way east across most of the peninsula and then south before turning back west to head back to town. Our entrance fee was pretty awesome as they were doing a 2-for-1 deal at the time, and we planned on using our second day on the peninsula 2 days later. And it was around 30,000 Argentinian pesos for us and the vehicle fee. Making our stops along Route 3 to 52, and then south to 47, and then back west on 2, we stopped to see elephant seals practicing their territorial battles and otherwise looking pretty satisfied to wait for the tide to come back up. One of my favorite, and really one of the strangest sights in South America and Argentina, are Ñandú, or Lesser Reyes. Driving along these grassy brushlands, you see what look like bushes moving strangely before a giant puppet-like neck and unmistakable legs and look of an ostrich appear on the horizon, and the biggest birds you've possibly ever seen start to emerge from the landscape. Ñandú can be seen throughout many parts of Argentina, and their history is as fascinating as they are strange. Also symbolic of Argentina, and even holding somewhat celebrity status, enough to make it onto the local currency, guanacos always hold a special place, in not only any Argentinian's heart, but any wildlife enthusiast as well. Although they can be quite skittish and do resemble llamas in appearance, they're actually massive and very powerful. Their bright coats do them well as winter approaches, and they constantly stay on the move in search of good grazing. But apparently they're also known for having trouble with fences. Our next morning, we spent a bit of extra time on what can often happen in remote places, especially in South America. With the low season and some areas being closed off, out of season, or just empty, we had what was our first detour after trying to get to Punta Tombo, known for its penguin colony. Although we knew the penguins were out of season, we didn't realize the entire area and access point would be closed off, so we spent a bit of time backtracking through the small towns of Trelew and Rawson in order to get to our next destination, which was very well worth it. Punta Ninfas. With sweeping views, this incredible coastline supports some of the best access we had found so far, and there was no fee area. The tide had receded and was coming back up, and we hoped it may bring some more whale sightings with it. But we enjoyed the emperor cormorants, sea lions hunting, just enjoying the calm to ourselves before I couldn't help myself and had to get down to the water's edge for a full effect. Knowing we didn't want to be traversing those roads again in the complete dark, we headed back toward Puerto Madryn after enjoying the view and prepping for our second day on the Peninsula de Valdez. But we had really pushed to get there. The previous day's rain had left the roads very nearly impassable, and more than once I was sure we would get stuck. And seeing only about 2 cars the entire day, we would have been there for quite a while. Fortune seems to favor the bold, and we pushed on, even after seeing a massive transport truck loaded with wood stuck in the mud, and another couple of people stuck who already had help on the way. The sunrise greeted us again on what turned out to be an even nicer day with the calm waves lapping. It's great egrets. More sea lion moms and pups. And turkey vultures started their days. We even saw a Coscoroba swan, which was a first for me. A very special treat as well was El Peludo, or pygmy armadillo, making an appearance that Barbie captured magnificently and turned out to be the only sighting we would have despite waiting by several burros for hours. As with many wildlife excursions sometimes, you don't always get what you're after, but we'd already had immense luck with our first day at Punta Norte, and this beautiful outing was in no way a failure, as we saw more guanacos, kelp gulls, cormorants, and a Patagonian mockingbird. With midday approaching, we decided to head most of the way back to Puerto Madryn to see if we could spot a few more southern right whales and enjoy the sun on the beach. It seemed like we weren't the only ones with this particular plan in mind either, as a very special encounter with this beautiful little Patagonian gray fox unfolded mere meters away right in front of us. The afternoon sun giving way to the sunset, with the coast behind, whales bobbing in the shallow waters, and what could be some of the last warm days of the whole season, really provided such an atmosphere, as this little fox dozed and stretched, nodded off a few times before continuing her search for food. Elegant crested tinamus, with their Dr. Seuss-like head plumage and incredible camouflage, were added to our list as we very slowly made our way back to town in hopes of any last possible sightings. And the cherry on top was a Patagonian tarantula. He had one injured leg, so I did move him off the road and into the grass, the direction he was headed. What started at our newest favorite little cafe in Corral would also be where we would end our trip. Nearly. With Loberia Punta Loma, a known sea lion colony just a few minutes south of Puerto Madryn. We thought it would be the perfect last stop before we had to head to the airport around 11 a.m. The bitter cold had finally arrived, and we started to realize just how lucky we had been with the last several days' sun and calm warm. It was a treat watching just how playful and agile sea lions are when they're in their element, unbothered by the frigid waters or Antarctic winds. With our things packed, our trusty steed washed, it was time to teleport back to Buenos Aires and assume life is normal. Even just these few days had opened my eyes once again in an entirely new way for just how interesting South America, and especially Argentina, really are. There are just so many levels to trying to explore and furthermore understand just how many opportunities and incredibly wild experiences there are to be found here. With our list going on, Puerto Madryn will always be a special one, and a place we know we will return to. Without even setting foot on one of the many marine tours, diving expeditions, boat tours, and arriving at the lowest season, I was blown away by how much we had still seen, meanwhile avoiding crowds completely. Spending time in the car always helps make us excited, talking about plans for future road trips, future adventures, finding things you never knew existed, and really experiencing what is often the most fun part about living here in Argentina. We really are still in South America.